Welcome to VSOW, the deep dive where we immerse ourselves in complex material, distilling key insights and knowledge for you, the learner.
Today, our focus is, well, it's one of the giants, Queen. An absolutely fascinating band, really. Our sources paint this picture of a group built on, surprisingly maybe, academic rigor, but also defined by just incredible theatrical innovation. And crucially, a band always willing to take some pretty profound risks with their music.
And that willingness, that's really the core of it today, isn't it? It led them to what many see as their absolute artistic peak, but also arguably their biggest creative stumble, perhaps.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really dig deep into two specific, you couldn't get more contrasting, works. First, the universally loved, totally groundbreaking mini opera from '75, Bohemian Rhapsody.
The classic of classics, right?
Right. And then jump forward to 1982 to Hot Space, an album that, well, it remains a lightning rod. Hugely controversial even now.
So the big question for us, and for you listening, is how did Queen manage this? How did this band, spearheaded by the undeniable charisma of Freddie Mercury, but also the sheer technical brilliance of the others, keep pushing the boundaries of rock?
And tied into that, what were the cultural forces, the sort of aesthetic factors that allowed them to make such a radical shift with Hot Space? And then how did that same shift turn what was actually, a commercially successful album?
Right, it sold well.
It did. How did it become seen as this monumental artistic failure, at least in the eyes of so many traditional rock fans?
It's a fascinating deep dive into that tension, isn't it? Risk versus reward and how people react to it. And to really unpack that, I think we have to start right at the beginning, the foundation.
Absolutely. The unique mix of people who formed this band. Because when you look at the backgrounds of the four members, well, it's not your typical 70s rock band lineup. Not at all.
Let's start with the frontman then, Freddie Mercury. Born Farrokh Bulsara, correct, in Zanzibar, 1946.
That's right, Parsi heritage. And long before the stadium rock god persona, he had this quite formal upbringing, education-wise, sent to boarding school in India.
And that's where the music started formally.
Yes, piano lessons from age 8. He even formed his first band there, a school band called the Hectics. So, performing was in him early on.
And then the move to London, that was driven by political upheaval, wasn't it?
Yes, the family fled the Zanzibar Revolution in 1964, settled in London. And interestingly, Freddie didn't go straight into music full-time. He went to Ealing College of Art.
Ah, the art school connection. Common for musicians then.
Very. And he actually graduated, got a diploma in graphic design, which, isn't just a trivia point.
How so?
Well, think about the Queen crest. That incredibly ornate logo, he designed that.
He personally designed it. I didn't realize that.
Yes. Blending all their star signs, the two Leos for Taylor and Deacon, Cancer for May, Virgo for himself with a Phoenix rising. It shows he was thinking visually, about branding, about the whole package, right from the start.
Building the identity. And that identity shifted formally around 1970, 71, when Smile became Queen.
Exactly. Smile was the band Brian May and Roger Taylor were already in. Freddie joined, brought his vision, and Farrokh Bulsara became Freddie Mercury. The band became Queen. The transformation was underway.
And central to that transformation was the voice.
Oh, undeniably. The sources consistently talk about this incredible 4-octave range, just effortless power and control from deep baritone right up to soaring tenor and beyond.
And the famous story about his teeth. He had quite prominent buck teeth.
Yes, caused by 4 extra teeth in his upper jaw, gave him that distinctive overbite.
But he never had them fixed, did he? Despite, being incredibly image conscious later on.
He didn't. And the reason cited is fascinating. He genuinely believed, or at least feared, that changing his dental structure, the shape of his mouth, might somehow damage that unique vocal resonance he had.
Wow. So the voice came first, even over conventional appearance.
It speaks volumes about his priorities, doesn't it? The instrument was paramount.
But as you said earlier, Queen wasn't just Freddie, the rest of the band. It's almost like a university science department.
It really is. Brian May, studying astrophysics, eventually got his PhD, Roger Taylor, a biology degree, and John Deacon, the bassist and electronics degree.
So none of them formally trained in music at a conservatory level.
Nope. Which is, in itself, kind of a Queen thing to do, isn't it? Defying the expected path, even in their backgrounds.
And did those backgrounds feed into the music? The science and tech side?
Directly. Especially Deacon's electronics knowledge. It wasn't just theoretical. He used it. He famously built his own amplifier, the DC amp.
Ah, yes, the DC. Crucial for Brian May's guitar sound, wasn't it?
Absolutely instrumental. It helped create those layered orchestral guitar tones that became such a signature. It underlines this belief they seem to have that sound could be engineered, meticulously constructed.
Which leads us neatly to their early sound and that famous rule.
The no synthesizers rule. Yes, they were incredibly proud of that. Put it right on the album sleeves.
What was the thinking there? Just purism.
Partly purism, partly, I think, a challenge. They wanted to show that all those incredibly complex, layered, almost otherworldly sounds they were getting, they were doing it the hard way.
Through multi-tracking guitars, vocals, analog wizardry, essentially.
Precisely. Stacks and stacks of overdubs,
Mhm.
pushing the limits of the tape machines. They were innovators in the analog realm before synths became ubiquitous. Their early style reflected that complex, dense, a mix of glam, hard rock, heavy metal, even progressive rock.
Like Led Zeppelin meets Yes, as the comparison went.
That's a pretty good description for those early albums, yeah. Before A Night at the Opera really solidified their unique thing.
Okay, so we have this foundation. Academic intelligence, technical skill, artistic vision, and this commitment to doing things differently. Which brings us, inevitably, to their creative Everest.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's hard to overstate its impact, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the sources suggest its origins were, well, quite humble.
Almost laughably so, given the final product. Brian May often talks about Freddie turning up with these little scraps of paper, sometimes just torn from his dad's office notepad.
Scribbled ideas.
Yeah, fragments. Some apparently dating back to his art college days in the late 60s. One core idea initially was apparently nicknamed the Cowboy Song.
Because of the "Mama just killed a man" line.
Presumably, yeah.
Yeah.
But the key thing was, Freddie saw these different fragments, a ballad bit, an operatic section, a heavy rock part, not as separate songs, but as pieces of one single epic whole.
Which was audacious in itself. A 6-minute single in 1975. Radio wasn't going to like that.
Not at all. 3 minutes was the iron rule.
Oh.
But Freddie was apparently adamant. He had the whole structure, the complex harmonies worked out in his head or on those bits of paper, and he was determined to blend it all.
So the ambition demanded a whole new level of studio work.
Oh, massively. They started recording it in August 75 at Rockfield Studios.
Oh.
And the process sounds incredibly laborious, particularly the opera section.
How long did that take?
Sources say they devoted an entire week just to that middle part.
Wow. And the layering, the number of vocal tracks, is legendary.
Astonishing. Around 160 vocal overdubs, apparently. Now remember, they were working with 24-track analog tape.
Which means bouncing tracks constantly, right? Mixing groups of voices down onto a single track to free up space for more.
Exactly, track bouncing over and over. And the physical toll on the tape itself was immense.
Is that the story about the tape becoming see-through?
That's the one May tells. He said they checked the tape master during mixdown, and you could practically see daylight through it. The oxide layer, the magnetic coating, was literally wearing thin from passing over the tape heads hundreds, maybe thousands of times.
It's incredible, just pure analog dedication, and the roles within that choir.
Very clearly defined. Freddie took the main mid-range melodies, Brian May handled the lower bass parts, and Roger Taylor delivered those incredibly high, almost falsetto notes that give it that piercing quality.
It's like they became their own opera company.
In effect, yes. And it wasn't just vocals. They were experimenting sonically elsewhere, too. The ballad section, for instance,
What did they do there?
used what academics call extended piano techniques. Things like laying metal objects or sheets of paper directly onto the piano strings.
To change the sound, like a prepared piano.
Precisely. To get a more percussive, slightly dampened, unusual timbre. It's the kind of technique you associate with avant-garde classical composers like John Cage or George Crumb.
Finding that connection between a chart-topping rock epic and 20th century experimental music that really highlights Queen's unique space, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. They saw no boundaries.
Yeah.
High art, low art, technical experimentation, pop sensibility, it was all fair game.
And the lyrics themselves. A whole other layer of complexity. It's packed with references.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
A mock opera, as Freddie called it.
Yeah.
You've got Galileo, maybe a nod to Brian May's astronomy studies.
Could be.
Figaro, is that Mozart? Is it Pinocchio? Scaramouche, the classic Commedia dell'arte character, the boastful clown.
Then the heavier stuff. Beelzebub.
Right, an archaic name for the devil, the prince of flies. And Bismillah, in the name of Allah. It's this whirlwind of the theatrical, mythological, the religious, the historical.
Just throwing it all in the pod. And the title itself, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Very deliberate choice, I think. A rhapsody isn't a fixed form, is it? It's
Yeah.
about free expression, emotional shifts, often sectional, almost improvisatory in feel, like romantic era stuff.
Okay.
And Bohemian evokes that unconventional, artistic, maybe even slightly outcast lifestyle. So the title perfectly signals. Expect drama, intensity, and a complete disregard for the rules. The name fits the music like a glove.
And what about the theory that the characters represent the band members?
Yes, the Scaramouche is Freddie, Galileo is Brian, Beelzebub is Roger, Figure is John theory. It's a popular fan reading.
And the band ever confirm it?
Freddie typically was quite coy about the specific meaning of the lyrics. He preferred people to interpret it themselves. But whether it was intended or not, the fact the song supports that kind of detailed interpretation just shows how rich the tapestry is. It reinforces the idea of it being an expression of the whole band dynamic.
Structurally, it's a journey. 6 distinct parts, right?
Yep. The a cappella intro,
Nice.
the ballad, Brian May's iconic guitar solo, the opera madness, the heavy rock section coming out of that, and then the final reflective outro.
And the key changes are all over the place, too, not your standard pop song structure.
Not even close. B flat major, E flat major, A major, F major. It keeps shifting, keeps surprising you.
Yet, despite all this complexity, this rule-breaking length, it became a colossal hit, but not without a fight.
The record company, EMI, was apparently horrified. 6 minutes. They refused to release it as a single initially. Said radio would never play it.
So how did it break through? The Kenny Everett story?
That's the crucial intervention. Everett, a hugely influential DJ on Capitol Radio, was a good friend of Freddie's. Freddie apparently slipped him a copy, asking for his opinion, but telling him not to play it on air.
Wink, wink.
Exactly. Everett, loving the drama of it all and genuinely loving the song, supposedly played it 14 times across one weekend. Teased it, played snippets, built this huge buzz. The phones at the station went crazy.
Forcing the label's hand.
Pretty much. Public demand made it undeniable. And then came the video.
Which was groundbreaking in its own right.
Absolutely. Shot incredibly quickly, just 3 hours, apparently, and cheaply. About 3,500 pounds.
Yeah.
But that central image, recreating the pose from the Queen II album cover, it became instantly iconic.
And premiering on Top of the Pops,
Yeah.
it basically invented the modern music video as a promotional tool, didn't it?
Many argue it did, yes.
Yeah.
It showed you could create a visual event to sell a song, especially one that was hard to perform live on a TV show,
And the legacy, the numbers are just mind-boggling.
aren't they? #1 in the UK for 9 weeks, initially, a record at the time. The only song ever to be UK Christmas, #1 twice for the same version.
Once in 75, then again after Freddie's death in 91.
Yeah.
Boosted by Wayne's World, of course.
Right. And it's still, what, the 3rd best-selling UK single of all time?
Right.
Plus RIAA Diamond certified in the US recently. It just endures.
And then Freddie's take on its meaning.
He always remained a bit playful, bit elusive, called it random rhyming rubbish sometimes, other times tongue-in-cheek mock opera. He basically said, listen to it, feel it, make up your own mind. It's about fantasy.
A high point impossible to replicate, perhaps? Which leads us dramatically to the other side of the coin.
The Great Divide, 1982, Hot Space.
If Bohemian Rhapsody was peak Queen fusion, Hot Space felt like, well, like a different band to many.
It really did. And you have to remember the context. It came after The Game, which was a massive global hit. And The Game already had Another One Bites the Dust.
Which was very funk-influenced Deacon's riff.
Hugely. So maybe they felt emboldened by that success. But Hot Space went much, much further. It was a deliberate, radical dive into funk, disco, R&B sounds. A clear departure from the hard rock roots.
And that no synthesizers were.
And completely abandoned. This album is full of synthesizers, synth-based drum machines, even horn arrangements by Arif Mardin on staying power. It was a total production chef.
Was the whole band on board with this new direction?
The sources suggest? No, not really. It seems to have exposed a growing split. You had Mercury and Deacon, who loved funk and dance music, really pushing this team pop agenda, if you like.
And May and Taylor.
They were the team rock, much less comfortable. Brian May has spoken about being quite unhappy during the sessions. There's a quote about him recording the guitar solo for his own more rock-oriented track, Put Out the Fire, while being a total grump about the album's overall sound.
You can almost hear that tension on the album, can't you? It feels disjointed.
Critics definitely picked up on that immediately. Side 1 is almost pure funk and disco staying power, dancer, back chat, the lead single Body Language.
And side 2.
Side 2 feels more like a concession, almost. It's got the rockier tracks like Put Out the Fire, the ballad Life is Real, song for Lennon, and crucially, the Bowie collaboration Under Pressure, which was already a huge hit single from the previous year.
This felt like 2 different EPs stuck together.
Kind of. Which brings us to this central paradox about Hot Space. Its reputation is terrible in some quarters. Monumental flop, creative disaster.
But the sales figures don't actually back that up, do they?
Not entirely. I mean, it wasn't the game part 2 in terms of sales, but it reached number 4 in the UK, number 22 in the US. Went gold pretty quickly in both. Commercially, it was decent.
So why the flop label? Is it purely relative
Yeah.
compared to their previous mega success?
That's part of it. Their own bar was set incredibly high, and Freddie himself later conceded that maybe leading with Body Language as the first single was a mistake. It was perhaps too alienating, too starkly different.
But the sources suggest there was more going on than just disappointing sales figures relative to expectations.
Much more. The real heat around Hot Space, the reason it became so controversial and remembered as a failure, seems tied up in the cultural context of 1982.
Okay, let's unpack that. What was so problematic about funk and disco in '82 for Queen's audience?
Well, think about the core rock audience back then. Largely white, largely male, very invested in certain ideas of rock authenticity. And disco and funk, they carried different cultural codes.
How so?
Disco, even after the Disco Sucks backlash, was still strongly associated with gay culture, with Studio 54, with liberation movements. Funk was deeply rooted in Black American R&B and the Black Power movement. For Queen to embrace these sounds so fully felt like, well, a stylistic contamination to some fans, a betrayal of rock.
Challenging the tribal boundaries of genre.
Exactly. And this musical shift happened at the same time Freddie's public image was changing quite dramatically.
The clone look. Short hair, mustache, leather.
Yes. A look heavily coded within the gay subculture of the time, particularly in places like San Francisco and New York. So the music and the image started to align in a way that maybe felt too explicit for some.
Compared to the glam rock ambiguity of the '70s?
Precisely. The 70s Freddie was flamboyant, theatrical, but ultimately ambiguous. Fans could project what they wanted onto him. The hot space era Freddie, combined with the disco funk sound, and lyrically too.
Ah, the lyrics got more direct.
Much more. Take Body Language again. Give me your body, don't talk. Long legs, great thighs. You've got the cutest ass I've ever seen. It's very direct, very physical, very sexual. A world away from Scaramouche or Galileo.
So all these things, the music genre, the visual look, the lyrical content, they all pointed in the same unambiguous direction.
They have verified each other. It shattered the carefully constructed sexual mystique Queen had cultivated. It moved beyond glam ambivalence into a kind of clarity that made some fans uncomfortable. It forced them to confront aspects of the band's identity and maybe their own feelings about it that the earlier theatricality had allowed them to sidestep.
Creating this image core implosion, as some sources put it.
That's a good way to phrase it. The aesthetic disappointment fused with these social and cultural anxieties. And we have to acknowledge, sadly, the potential role of homophobia in the backlash.
The sources mention that.
Yes. Many critics and biographers believe there was an undercurrent of prejudice in the reaction. And tragically, this is all happening right as the AIDS crisis is beginning to emerge in public consciousness. While AIDS wasn't the cause of the album's perceived failure, it certainly cast a dark shadow over the era and likely exacerbated negative feelings for some.
A perfect storm, really.
It seems so. Aesthetic choices clashing with cultural anxieties, overlaid with emerging public health fears and prejudice. It made Hot Space what some call a hit in distress. It sold okay, but it was emotionally rejected by a significant part of the fan base that had previously adored them.
And that reputation has stuck, hasn't it? Even today, fan polls often rank it near the very bottom of Queen's albums.
Usually just above the Flash Gordon soundtrack, yeah.
Right.
Although, interestingly, even its detractors often concede there's a certain vitality and invention to it. And tracks like Under Pressure are universally loved. The division persists.
So the modern take is still mixed, but the narrative of it being a misstep, a failure, largely solidified back in '82.
Pretty much. Bold experiment, yes. Commercially disastrous. Not really.
Yeah.
Culturally problematic for its time and audience, absolutely.
Okay, so moving beyond that controversy, let's look at the bigger picture. Queen's enduring impact. Because despite Hot Space, their legacy is immense.
Undeniable. And perhaps the greatest testament to their power, even after that perceived stumble, was Live Aid in 1985.
Ah, yes. The performance often called the greatest in rock history.
Many say so. By that point, some critics felt Queen were maybe a bit past their prime. Hot Space had dented their image, but they walked out onto that Wembley stage.
Freddie in the white vest and jeans.
And just owned it. 20 minutes of pure charisma, connection, mastery, holding 72,000 people and a global TV audience of billions in the palm of his hand. It was electrifying. A total vindication.
That showmanship is legendary, but it's backed by the music's sheer range, isn't it? We've talked about the complexity of Bohemian Rhapsody, but then you have something like We Will Rock You.
Stark naked simplicity. Stomp, stomp, clap. That's it. Genius in its minimalism. And that ability to operate at both extremes, the complex opera, the primal chant, that's key to their longevity.
And their influence is correspondingly wide.
Incredibly diverse. You see their DNA everywhere.
Yeah.
Heavy metal bands like Iron Maiden, Rob Zombie cite them. Hard rock like Foo Fighters, The Darkness. Alternative bands Muse or practically Queen acolytes sometimes. Even Nirvana covered Queen.
And pop, too, right?
Oh, yeah. Lady Gaga took her name from Radio Gaga. Katy Perry, George Michael. Anyone interested in spectacle, vocal power, or theatricality owes them a debt. They broke down genre walls for future generations.
The official recognition followed, too.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001. And significantly, all 4 members inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2003, acknowledging that it wasn't just Freddie writing the hits.
That's an important point we need to touch on.
Definitely. And beyond the music, there's the humanitarian legacy.
The Mercury Phoenix Trust.
Exactly. Founded after Freddie's tragic death from AIDS in 1991, it's raised millions for AIDS awareness and education globally, turning personal tragedy into a positive force.
Which brings us back to that point about the collective. There's always this debate, isn't there? The overwhelming focus on Freddie versus the contributions of May, Taylor, and Deacon.
It's unavoidable, perhaps.
Mhm.
Freddie was such a singular talent, arguably the greatest frontman ever, but it does risk overshadowing the others, who are all phenomenal musicians and songwriters.
We need to remember who wrote what.
Absolutely. Brian May gave us the riffs and anthems, We Will Rock You, Tie Your Mother Down, Fat Bottom Girls, Who Wants to Live Forever. Pure stadium rock genius.
Roger Taylor.
Brought a harder edge sometimes. I'm in Love with My Car, Radio Gaga, co-wrote Under Pressure, and These Are the Days of Our Lives. A great vocalist, too.
And John Deacon, the quiet one.
The master of the groove. Wrote some of their biggest, funkiest hits. Another one bites the dust, I Want to Break Free, You're My Best Friend. Plus, his electronics background was vital. He wasn't just the bass player.
So the magic formula was truly the 4 of them together, their different strengths, that creative friction sometimes.
Yeah. Educated, competitive, incredibly talented. Their willingness to push boundaries, even when it led them to a critical storm like Hot Space, is ultimately why their music still feels so rich and, well, alive today.
So, wrapping this up. We've seen the intricate artistry and technical audacity behind Bohemian Rhapsody, this universally acclaimed masterpiece. And we've explored the complex mix of artistic choices, cultural anxieties, and shifting identities that turned Hot Space into such a divisive yet commercially viable album. It really highlights Queen's completely fearless approach to genre, didn't it?
Fearless is the word. They risked alienating their core audience for the sake of exploring new sounds. Whether you like the result or not, you have to admire the nerve.
Which leads to a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder. We talked about how the blend of funk, disco, and rock in Hot Space caused such a backlash in 1982, partly due to cultural associations and genre policing.
Right.
But think about music today. Artists constantly blend those very genres, R&B, funk, rock, pop, electronic elements, often to huge critical and popular acclaim. It's almost expected now. So the provocative question is, what does the intense negative reaction to Hot Space back then tell us about how cultural memory works and how much the boundaries of rock identity have shifted or maybe haven't shifted even today?
That's a great question to chew on. How much of that 1982 context still lingers? Something to think about next time you listen to Queen, maybe.
Indeed. If you found this deep dive valuable, please do subscribe, like, and comment. It helps us continue exploring these complex topics.
Thank you for listening to VSOW.